My Way Teaching Aids Private Limited.
Social. Grade 7 Unit 1, Rulers and Buildings. The early medieval period, principally the trend to construct huge temples by the kings was aimed to achieve the following. Salient features of a temple. Shikara. Garbhagriha. Gopuram. Mandaps. Vimana. To project themselves as the descendants of God. To convey the people that they were highly devoted to God and therefore closer to God and that people should be subservient to them. To show power and wealth. To maintain that God and religious rituals. The temples they made had a peculiar form of pyramidical shape called vimana. The top was called the shikara, which was commonly in the shape of a crown. The inside of this main temple was known as Garbhagriha, which housed the deity. Only the kings and the priests could enter this area. There were many halls adjacent to this which were called the mandapas, where people could gather for prayers. They used an impressive gateway which was known as the Gopuram. On the walls they made thousands of idols chiseled out of the stones depicting the various forms of gods and their lives. Idols were usually placed in the northern side of the temple. Examples: Kailasnath Temple, Kanchipuram. Shore Temple, Mahabalipuram. Architecture during the Sultanate. Monuments. Description: Qutub Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, the first ever Muslim ruler of Delhi, of Mameluke dynasty, started the construction and was completed by his successor Iltutmish. The Qutb Minar was constructed from material collected from Hindu buildings and temples. This is the tallest minaret in India, having a height of 238 feet. It is made up of fluted red sandstone and marble. Quat al-Islam Mosque. It is the oldest surviving example of the Ghurids architecture, that was primarily built on the remains of the 27 Hindu and Jain temples. It was the first mosque built in Delhi after the Islamic conquest of India. Ali Darwaha. It was the first example of the true domed. It was located in the Qutb complex. Mughal architecture. Salient features of Mughal architecture. Minarets. Chardar. Arched gateways, Pishtak. Pitarajura work. White marble and red stone. Domes. Akbar. The first monument which came up was the tomb of Humayun. This tomb was designed by a Persian architect called Malik Mirza Ghiyas and executed by Indian craftspersons. It is a fine example of the mix of Indian and Persian traditions. The other recognizable buildings constructed during the reign of Akbar are Reed Fort at Agra, city of Fatehpur Sikri, Lahore Fort, etc. Jahangir. He was also interested in art and architecture. He got the tomb of Akbar at Sikandar completed and the tomb of Ahmad al-Dawla was built by Nur Jahan over the grave of her father. It was here that for the first time marble and red stone were used in an artful combination. This also had precious and semi-precious stones inlaid into the walls in a system called Pietradura. This amalgamation of the Indian and the Islamic elements led to the rise of a new style of architecture called the Indo-Islamic architecture. Tank and step wells. Tank and step wells. Chandburi. Tanks were constructed around temples for ritual bathing. They were known as kund. They were usually rectangular in shape and were surrounded by steps. The Turkish rulers in Delhi later followed this tradition of tank construction. Iltutmish constructed a large reservoir called Hauz-i Sultani or King's Reservoir.
Thanks for watching this video.